Hello again, it's April here, and today I've got a fun little collab video for you. Me and Arty got together and we did a material swap. So I sent her 5 of my favorite materials and she sent me 5 of hers. We got together on a little Zoom and we did an unboxing together. So let's see what she sent me.
All right, mine's open.
I did send you some basic things, but I feel like you'll be able to do a lot with them.
Oh my word, this is like not what I would have chosen myself. Why is it all paint arty?
Because I thought you would have fun with it. So basically, I sent you my 5, if I was on a desert island, what would I take with me?
This is what you would take.
Yes. Because
Okay,
it would give me lots of options to do loads of things. And there's some of my favorite products as well.
So you kind of cheated because you basically gave me the primaries. And
I gave you the primaries, but they're difficult to mix because I should have given you a lighter blue.
Wait, am I allowed to use a bit of white with it or no? Is that cheating?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I didn't realize that. There's 6 things here.
I know.
My maths is terrible. Do you have the Liquitex marker in white or acrylic ink in white?
I have Posca pen.
Yeah, Posca, something in white, acrylic in white.
So Arty basically sent me all paint, which I'm definitely not used to using, like just on its own. I got a gold paint and then I got 3 primary gouaches. Winsor & Newton Quedo Magenta and Indigo, the Horadam Cadmium Yellow Medium, and a Creative Colour Graphite Pencil. She didn't get me any white, but she did say I could use a Posca pen or some acrylic ink. So I do try out a few different things throughout this video to see which works best with the paints. So I'm not a big fan of mixing colours. I find it it is therapeutic, but I also find it kind of boring when I'm painting. If I just want to colour and I have to mix it, I'm like, ugh. I'm a very impatient person. You may know this if you've been watching me for a while. And I'm not like the detail-oriented person. So I find things like this a little bit tedious, but I did get to swatching to start with to see what colours I could make. And you can make a lot of variety of colours with just these 3 materials and a white. So I was feeling pretty positive at this point. And I'll say quickly before we move on, don't forget to pop over to Arty's channel and see what I picked for her and how her little collab challenge went. Another part of this challenge was to mix some references together to create a scene or a piece of work. So I picked some, Arty picked some, and then we popped our 3 favorites together. So we had 6 images to combine into a scene or some other type of artwork. So to start with, I took those reference images and I decided to kind of almost do like a brainstorm thumbnail play with the materials at the same time. So I would kind of take the themes from the references and try and just play with the materials and figure out how they go together. I haven't used paint on its own for ages. If I have, like in the past when I have, it's mainly been acrylic paint. Things with kind of wet, like watery medium, like watercolor, or using gouache, like really watered down for me, is quite difficult. I find the like layering, the transparency, all of that a little bit, it's like very nuanced and very delicate. And I think you really need to like practice it to get good. And I found this initial play was okay, a little bit frustrating, but later on in the video, I definitely found it really difficult to kind of get the consistency I wanted or the colors that I wanted. But that just comes with using a material that you haven't really used before, and without the fallback of using Neocolor or pencil on top, which is what I always do. So normally when I start painting, if it's looking bad or it's looking like not finished, it's fine because I know I can just layer over the top of this. That's the main challenge I had with these materials, knowing that there wasn't any help coming and I had to save myself. So I did have a good play though, mixing the graphite with the, I was using a Posca pen at this time and coming out with different textures and things. And then it was time to get to thumbnailing. So when I chose these references, I really wanted to draw a tree with a swing for some reason. And I also wanted to draw a house. I always want to draw a house. I also found this really cute little picture of a cat doing the laundry, which I thought was so cute. So I thought it might be nice to have the characters as little cats. And my initial idea for the scene was to have kind of like the house with the one cat doing the laundry and then another cat on the swing reading his book, because I did have to blend my images and Arty's images together. And I did I liked Artie's images, the rolling hills, obviously, the sheep is a lot of things that I normally draw because up here in the, near the Lake District, in this kind of part of the country, there's a lot of that stuff around, a lot of hills and a lot of sheep. The lady reading the book, though, I didn't want to draw the lady standing up reading the book, which is why I kind of thought it would be fun if I combined the swing and the book together, which is what I tried to do. So right now, these thumbnails, I'm just kind of like figuring out a different composition. I've got all the same elements, but I'm just thinking, do I want a square? Do I want a portrait? Do I want a landscape? Like, how big's the house? Is it in the distance? Do you see the hills? Is the lady doing the laundry? Is she the focus? Is the person on the tree the focus? Do I want him sitting under the tree? Do I want him on the swing? Just all these kind of things. And I don't normally thumbnail before I mean, I do thumbnail sometimes, but I don't normally thumbnail when I do sketches. Only when I'm kind of like stuck, I'll start to thumbnail. So I think this is a really good kind of way to start drawing if you're doing like a big composition or you're just trying to get some ideas out there. And the speed at which I'm drawing is making me anxious. Let's move on. So all of those swatches and thumbnails were done months ago, maybe July, August, and then life got busy and this video got put on the back burner. So I finally picked it up again a couple of weeks ago, and I had to refresh myself with all the different pages that I had done for tests and little sketches I'd made and the thumbnails. I even had to remind myself what the references were because I couldn't remember a thing. I had a little flip through of the pages, and then it was time to get to work and actually start making some art. Now, I've been putting this off because, like I mentioned in like the swatching phase, these materials weren't the most fun for me to use. I just found them difficult. Mixing paints, mixing colors, transparency, like new materials, all of that stuff was a little bit scary, and I just kind of kept putting it off. I felt really bad because Arty, I'm pretty sure Arty was like almost finished, and I hadn't even started the final, like this section of the video. We made a deadline and Arty kept saying to me, like, we can push it if you want, but we already pushed this video like weeks, months, So I said, no, Arty, I have to do it. Like, I'm gonna get through this. I'm gonna be strong. And I had to sit down one weekend and just kind of like battle it out. So I think this was last weekend. I sat down and I thought I would start off and be super chill and work in my sketchbook. I didn't want to like give myself the pressure of making a perfect piece of final art on a nice piece of paper. So I just went into my sketchbook, which I think was maybe a mistake because I was using the Pith sketchbook, and I don't use the Pith sketchbook much with a lot of wet material and water. And while the pages are nice, I don't think they're the best for this kind of material. They were soaking in the colors a lot and kind of dulling everything down, and I found it quite difficult to layer and like really kind of get to grips with the materials. I was also finding that I was making the gouache really watery and not thick. And I think one of the issues that I was having is I was trying to use that Posca pen. So I was basically smushing the Posca pen onto the palette and trying to mix that. I actually ended up changing it a little bit in the next layer. So this was the first layer. I did this in a day or a night, I can't remember. And I was basically going through and I was doing like little vignettes, I guess, of the scenes. So one would be the big scene, one would be like, there'd be the scene over and over again, but in different kind of compositions and I was trying to use different techniques. So here I was laying it on really thick. I was using really dark paint. On one, I just covered it completely up in gold and then painted over the gold. And then after that dried, I went in with the acrylic ink and I tried again. I thought maybe this would help thicken it up a little bit and give me a little bit more, I don't know, like body or consistency, because the main issue I was facing was the thinness of the product, because I draw normally with acrylic or really thick paint markers. A lot of my materials that I use are very opaque and very like thick, and I'm not very good at layering. Like, I was doing a live stream the other day. This is a completely different topic, but I was doing a live stream with soft pastels, and they're also a material that needs to be layered, I think, and have a light touch. I'm not very good at a light touch, so it's something I'm definitely trying to learn a little bit, because I wouldn't like to become an expert at using gouache or watercolor, but I would like to be more comfortable with it, so that when I'm faced with it again in the future, it doesn't take me 8 months to get around to it, because I don't want to use it. Actually, for me, the most fun I had in the sketchbook was using like the graphite pencil, kind of in this little picture that I'm doing here. So it's almost like the paint is a background for the graphite, which is the detail work. And that's also how I do most of my, like a lot of my art now, is I'm very focused heavily on kind of the line and the detail and stuff, rather than making that detail with the paint. But the problem with the graphite pencil is it's very shiny, and normally it doesn't bother me, but because the gouache is so very matte, I found they kind of fought against each other. So I didn't end up using that pencil a lot. And instead I tried to do a lot of the detail and line work with the paint, which is very new for me, something that I don't do a lot. It did take a long time because I was using a very thin paintbrush. I brought this paintbrush a while ago, and I think it's called a liner paintbrush. Someone tell me if I'm wrong. It was such a nice paintbrush to paint with, although I don't think I'm holding it right. I'm holding it like right at the end like a pen. I'm pretty sure you're meant to be holding it higher up. I'm basically holding it like I would a pencil. But yeah, I think that was actually a really fun part of this project, was drawing or painting with the paintbrush and kind of using that instead of a pencil. So this was kind of the first page. It was a bit of a mess. I wasn't like super digging it, and I wanted to call it a day. And this was going to be the last kind of thing that I did for the video, but I just really wasn't happy with it. Like I just really wasn't vibing with it at all. So I think that night I was just really annoyed, because I really wanted to like make something cool for the video. And then I got an idea. The gold paint, I hadn't even used this much at all, and the only thing I could think of for gold paint was fancy frames. What if I took the gold and then mixed up some thicker kind of colors with these paints and made something completely different than what I had done? So I got the Winsor and Newton gouache and I mixed that in with the paints. I figured it would make a lovely, silky, smooth, pastel-y, beautiful, like opaque color. And then I got to making some collage. I figured, what hadn't I done so far? I mean, I hadn't done a lot of things, to be honest, but one of the things I definitely hadn't done was making collage with these paints. I thought it would kind of help me, because it would get away from my fear of thin paints and transparencies and layering, and it would give me all of that beautiful texture that I craved. So I created 3 sheets, one a greeny color, one a kind of pinky reds, and one grays and blues. I haven't done collage for so long, and I spent probably the next 2 days, not completely, but you know, the next 2 mornings and evenings, cutting out different shapes. I used my sketchbooks for reference. So I looked at the little thumbnails, and I looked at the work that I had already done as kind of like the prep work now, because this is going to be my final now. And I used those as a base to kind of create some characters and some scenes from the sketchbook. And guys, even though this was like the most fun I have had so far for this video, it did take me ages cutting out all of the little bushes and trees and cats and houses, but I was really having a blast with this. I didn't obviously film all of the collage stuff, otherwise we would be here all week. Just some highlights here. My fingers got really sore. I got like an indentation in my thumb from holding the scissors so hard. But in the end, we got there. This is all my scraps. And then I put together a few little scenes here. So I put them in little piles, and then I got to assembling them. The only problem was, after I had cut them all out, I kind of forgot what order they went in. So some of them were easy, like this cat here was really easy. Obviously, the head goes on top of the body, you know, like you can't really go wrong with it. But later on, when I get to the landscapes and stuff, I couldn't remember what color went on what, where the bushes went. It did take a long while to put all this together. And like I mentioned at the start of the video, I'm not the most patient person. So the glue, my fingers were always sticky. I didn't really clean them very well in between stuff. I got glue on everything. And when the glue gets on the top of the paint, it kind of makes it shiny or dirty, which was a little bit annoying. But I did try and do my best to kind of keep it clean while still being my impatient self. And in the end, I think I created some really cute little collages. So, guys, do you think this is cheating? And Arty, weigh in here as well, because these are the materials that you sent me, and I'm just worried that this is a little bit cheaty. I did do my very best to start with, though. You guys saw that. I did do a lot of mixing and I did do a lot of experimentation. But in the end, the only thing I think that these materials are meant to be for is to create this collage. I think they were put in my hands by fate or destiny to make these beautiful cat collages. So I think my job is done here. After I popped them all together, I cut out some kind of shapes for the backgrounds. I was going to do like rectangles, but in the end I went all with ovals and circles to kind of give it a more friendly feel. And then I basically just spent another like day sticking all of the scenes together. Some of them were quite simple, like the little bee. The hardest one was the really big house at the end, which was quite a lot of work, which you'll see. But yeah, it was super fun. And I think every time I do, this is the one that was really difficult. But every time I do collage, I always think, this is so fun. I want to do more, but then I don't for ages. And I have a big box of collage paper or like pre-painted paper on my bookshelf. And I think I should do more. What do you guys think? Collage is so fun. Even if I just use it as like an extra media onto my mixed media work. I know that a lot of people use collage in their work, like adding in little details or even fixing up mistakes or just for a little bit of texture. And I think it would be something really fun to kind of try and bring more into my work. The next couple of months, I might try and just start bringing collage even into my sketchbooks, just a little bit here and there. And oh yeah, guys, I accidentally put the blue lid on top of the white paint, so now all of my white paint comes out a little bit blue. I need to try and clean this because I still have over half of a big tube of gouache left. What was I saying? Collage. Yeah, super fun. And also mixing the paints like this where they're all kind of, what if I had done this to begin with? Like, look at this. I could have easily painted something with this. And it took me a long time to figure out that I should mix gouache with gouache. I mean, you wouldn't think it was that difficult of an idea to come up with, but I got there in the end. And if I was when I use this material, not if, but when I use these gouaches again that Arty sent me, I will definitely use it with white gouache. I think that's the key. I totally skipped over this part, but I made all these beautiful frames. I like measured them all out and I did the black first. And I figured I would just glue the image on rather than cut the frame out. That'd be easier. And then comes the gold, which was the whole point of this collage, which gave me the idea, the gold frames. So I stuck the collage on and then I went in very painstakingly again with that tiny, tiny paintbrush and I did all the frames. I actually was annoyed because I did this so well. This first frame, I did it so well, so lovingly with this skinny, skinny brush, and I didn't film. I didn't film it. But that's the gold too. I forgot to mention the gold. I think it's like antique gold. I'll pop it in the description anyway. Yeah, I completely didn't film this first line, which I was very proud of because I thought actually I had a very good hand. And the hardest part for the gold frames was coming up with different ideas. I didn't want them to be like too ornate or too detailed, but I also wanted them to kind of look different from each other. So it was a little bit hard coming up with different ideas for the patterns of the frames. And I think the gold shines so nicely against the dark gouache there. So that's the first frame done. And then I had 6 to go. I actually ended up making 7 mini images. I was only going to do 3 to start with. And then I ended up having 4. And I thought, I can't do 4. I need to have an odd number. And I don't know how it ended up as 7, but it did. And here are all of them here. So these are all the different frames, all different sizes. Some of them have more gold on, some of them have less. My favorite one is actually the stripy one. I like the ones that have lots of stripes on them. And the last thing I had to do was just some small little details. So I probably could have done all of this in collage, but I was so collaged out. Like my fingers were like complaining. when I picked the scissors up. So I decided to go in very thin with my very thin paintbrush again and do some very small details. I think I probably went a little bit over the top with the little dashes in some of them, but I think most of them turned out pretty nicely. And I always find it nice to add the eyeballs to a character because without the eyeballs, they do look a bit strange. I think it really brings the piece together. Anyway, we're coming to the end of the video now. So I just wanted to say that I did really enjoy using these materials in the end. It did take me a while to get there, to like figure out how I wanted to use them. And I think this is a really good lesson to take away for myself and maybe others. When you have a new material and you're struggling with it, just to try to persevere, try not to be scared like I was in the beginning, try different things, and eventually you'll get there. I hope. I mean, look, we all hope that we get there in the end, right? And those were all of my collages. So we have the little house in the hills, and then we have Mrs. Cat taking the laundry out with her washing basket. She's hanging her laundry out there, hoping it's not going to rain. In the garden, there's some beautiful flowers. In the distance, she hears the sheep baaing. A little bee is buzzing around. And little Cat is just sitting reading his book under the tree while his mum works. So that's the end of the video, the end of my mystery art material collab with Arty. I hope that you enjoyed it, seeing all of the experimentation and the struggle and how I got to the last little few collages that I absolutely love. I hope you enjoyed watching all of that, and don't forget to pop over to Arty's channel. I will leave her link below, as well as all the materials that I used. And that's all for me. So I hope you have a lovely rest of your week, and I will catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.